Alright guys, so hello, here's part 2. We left off last time at part 1 with my first strawberry layer of cake breaking. It cracked. It had the audacity to say, and for what? And for what? I decided I would put that with the other cut off tops and I would use that in the cake pops. We also came to the conclusion that we would immediately throw away that pan because we had problems with it before and now it broke my cake. So, turns out I was 20 years old. Obviously, because that cake came out with like no trouble at all. It was the pan's fault, so it was the pan's fault. And so I began cutting the tops off of just the top off of the cake that actually ended up working. And I set it aside to make the cake pops along with the extra layer that ended up breaking. And I noticed right off the bat that it was much more moist because it had like natural strawberry in it. I thought that was really cool. So I went ahead and I began frosting my layers. Here's my base layer of red velvet. And I thought that it would be a good idea to add in some chopped fresh strawberries between my layers, to make it nice and welcome to springy for Valentine's Day. Nice and red, you know. So the frosting looked a bit rough, but I was honestly kind of proud of myself. Look at her, she's glowing. So now it was time to put fondant on the cake, except it said nowhere on the cake about how to put, what to put on the cake to then put the fondant on. I didn't know if you were supposed to put frosting on it and then put the fondant over the frosting so it sticks to it, or if you just put it on it because the fondant's that good, it's that good so it would already stick to the cake. But it didn't say. All it said was need, trim, place. So I asked my mom, as one does. So it was my mom's recommendation to cover just the entire cake with cream cheese frosting so that the fondant would have something to stick to, and that's also what the internet recommended. So I went ahead and started covering it. You can see that I'm literally just spreading little bits of red velvet everywhere. It looks bad, it looks lopsided, it looks like one of those dilapidated houses that's been hit by a earthquake, but whatever. Now I had the cake all covered in frosting. It was nice and coated in frosting so I could put the fondant on it. So I covered it. After that, I smoothed it out a little bit so it didn't look like absolute doo-doo. And then I put it in the fridge so it could sit there. And then I went ahead and I got the fondant out. I spread out my powdered sugar and got ready to start rolling out the fondant. I ended up having to use the entire box of fondant, which when you pulled it out, it was like this gigantic brick of just pure sugar, which is what fondant is. But it was 16 ounces? I don't know. It was this huge amount, and we ended up having to clear off the knife blocks and everything off of the counter. And it looked like this gigantic pizza. And we rolled it super thin. We had to keep picking it up and turning it and pushing on it and spreading it out as far as possible so it would cover the cake. And so here my mom is rolling up the fondant so that she could spread it over the cake. And then she spread it over the cake and she overshot it a little bit, but that's alright. We were able to pick it up and put it back on. And so, okay, right here, I don't know if it's iMovie that's fake or if it's iPhone that's fake, but when I recorded this, I swear, you can see the entire cake, you can see everything that I'm doing, but now that I'm looking at this, look, you can't even see anything. So, here's a video of me doing nothing. I think I might pull out my kazoo and serenade you, so turn down the volume, or turn it up. clip. Jesus Christ. This is sped up too, for the record. Dance. What is that? Okay, thank you. So after putting on the fondant, this is what it looked like. This is before trimming. So it looked okay. It looked pretty good for a first timer. And so this is where I started trimming. And I took a time lapse of this one so it's not so ungodly long. But yep, I used a little scalpel out of the toolkit that my parents got me, and I cut it and tucked it like kind of towards the bottom of the cake. At that precise moment, my mom decided that it would be a good idea to cook on the stove, like right next to where I was doing the fondant. And so it made the fondant really warm and sticky, and I couldn't get the smoothers to stick to it. So, yeah. So I had to just go ahead and put it in the fridge while it wasn't smooth, and I went ahead and showered so I could go ahead and smooth it down and decorate it after I got out of the shower. Now that I was out of the shower, it was time to start decorating, so I used that rose gold, stuff and a heart cookie cutter to kind of tap it on and then scrape off the pieces that fell, which wasn't really working that well, but anyway, I tried. So here I am doing that. I put 4 on the sides of the cake, so if you were to cut the cake in quarters, you would cut the hearts in half, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so that was pretty fun. It took me a pretty long time, but it ended up looking pretty decent. Look at that. I totally didn't use a cookie cutter to do that. It totally isn't high-key trays. Next, I put the leftover strawberries on top, and then I thought that the cake needed something more, so I heated up some chocolates that I had put in my backpack, saving them for a mental breakdown for school. So I just got them, and I put some canola oil in with them, and I heat them up, and they ended up working so much better than those other chocolates did. And it also took me a pretty long time to get it on the cake because it was being stubborn and wanting to stick to itself. But I think if I hadn't have added that, it wouldn't have looked that good. I don't think that the cake would have looked very good if I hadn't have added it. So I'm glad that I added the chocolate, and it gave it a pretty nice look, I think. Doesn't it look pretty fancy? Especially for my first cake that I've ever made before. And it added an extra taste too, and an extra texture. When I was eating the cake, which is coming later, it was crunchy and isn't that so nice? I love that for me. My mom watched me do this. Then finally, hopefully the moment that you clicked for, the cutting of the cake. So my mom got this unceremoniously large knife and cut me a huge piece of cake for me to try. And yeah, that. Look at how big that piece is. She must have thought I was deserving. I think I'm deserving. Look at that effort. Look at that. Doesn't that look so good? I'm kind of proud over here. Look at her. Oh, it's spongy. It's good. So that pretty much concludes the video. I'm sorry it took so long, but I literally did. It was a 24-hour process. It took me all my hours that I was awake. It took me to do that cake, and I put a lot of effort into it, and it did pretty well. And I'm sorry that the cake pops aren't included in this video. I think I'll make an extra video for it. In total, all the footage was over 40 minutes long, and I've really spliced it down without leaving out a lot. And so I've learned a lot from this experience, and I'm excited about possibly posting this on YouTube and creating a YouTube channel based on this. And I promise, Coach Hannah, if you're watching this, I don't always eat this way. So, bye! Isn't that the name of that one girl that dances on TikTok?